money. He just can't stand the responsibilities, and he he dreams of getting away from the cares of life, of finding a place where he can be at ease. Okay? In this really long story, one of several Bark stories we have, there's Scrooge going nuts and finally having to be pulled down from a tree because he's literally going nuts. You're not a squirrel. I know it, but I can want to be one, right? You're just overworked. You need a rest. And eventually they end up in Tra-La-La, a version of Shangri-La, where we Tra-La-Lans have never known greed. Friendship is the thing we value most. It's wonderful here. Nobody wants anything that belongs to anybody else. The people rounded up all our supplies and returned them to us, and nobody asked a single favor. Yes, all we have to do is bear our share of the work, and the people will leave us strictly alone. So in this kind of combination of communism and an oligarchy, they find happiness until Scrooge is so happy that he wants to throw away his nerve medicine that keeps him from freaking out. He doesn't need it anymore. So he's tossing away the bottles of nerve tonic that he has, found by a Tra-La-Lan who tries to return it and is told, it's only an old bottle cap, you can keep it. It's the only bottle cap in Tra-La-La, and people are trading sheep and all of their worldly goods because it's a lesson in economic scarcity and how it works. Eventually, it leads to total havoc where everybody's trying to get the few bottle caps that Scrooge has. And the result is, in order to survive with their lives so that everybody can have bottle caps, Scrooge manages to get bottle caps dropped onto Tra-La-La and almost buries it in bottle caps until everybody's out to lynch Scrooge because there are too many bottle caps now. This is a very basic lesson in economics and greed and how people function, and a story that is really nuanced in its telling, like these fantastic panels where everybody's hands are kind of reaching out over there, the movement across the page that leads to everybody in a kind of riot, and ultimately leaves Scrooge totally frazzled, as you can see in the upper left panel, and as it begins to rain bottle caps, is part of one of these epic stories in the book. Now, I kept referring to these funny uncles. It's part of what we needed to include. A chapter near the end was our weird and wacky section, and it allowed us to include things like Basil Wolverton's Powerhouse Pepper and some of his grotesque faces. You can see that the underground comics that really began to bring comics into adulthood and were certainly inspired by Mad Comics. You can see the family resemblance between Crumb and the Basil Wolverton drawings, perhaps, if you know Robert Crumb's work. But Crumb was at least as influenced by Uncle Scrooge and by Little Lulu, as was I, as by any of the more wised up and strange comics. Fritz the Cat is definitely a sexualized character that got lost out of a Dell comic book somehow, you know. So there's also in that section one of John Stanley's strangest creations, Melvin Monster. After the Little Lulu world, that really creates a convincing world of little boys and little girls where they're really equals. He also did this thing about the same time that Roald Dahl was doing his dark stories about a thoroughly dysfunctional family that with a kid, Melvin Monster, is a sweet monster who can only be living in a situation described as child abuse dysfunctional with these genuinely monstrous parents. Now, in order to not let the kids have nightmares, at the end of the book, we returned to Dr. Seuss and P.D. Eastman, the guy who wrote Where's My Mother and Go Dog Go for the beginner Cat in the Hat books. And it allows me to close more or less with what Francoise was moving toward when she was talking about children's books and comic books. Like in the right-hand page from Eastman's kid book, Where's My Mother? Are you my mother? The baby bird asked a kitten. The kitten just looked and looked. It did not say a thing. Now, one of the reasons that comics can be multimodal, as that neuroscientist pal of Francoise's put it, is you get the talk as balloons. You get to see it as part of the action, as opposed to, are you my mother, the baby bird asked a kitten. And on the other hand, Eastman really is a natural comics artist. The way he did this was The beak and the eyes are yellow, so the top of the picture, which gets you to look at baby bird asking a kitten, focuses on his mouth talking, and the kitten just looking has the yellow eyes, so you focus back on those. It's rather sophisticated in the way it works. In Eastman's adaptation of a story by Dr. Seuss that was made into an animated cartoon called Gerald McBoing Boing, you can see even in the first few panels where it describes panel 1, this is the story of Gerald McBoing Boing, panel 2, and the strange things. Sorry, I'm wearing the glasses that I usually use to find my reading glasses. This is the story of Gerald McCloy and the strange thing that happened to that little boy. They say it all started when Gerald was 2. Now, when you're being introduced to Gerald McBoing Boing, you're getting to see him drawn. You're getting a lot more information as you're being narrated into the story. And then when Gerald McBoing Boing has his first speech balloon, there's this fantastic way of representing the boing boing worthy of a Steinberg abstraction in its evoking of sound. So, although we avoided the mad comics that indicated the end of childhood, I couldn't not put Harvey Kurtzman in any book he could be in, so we moved to a very simple one that didn't require any external knowledge beyond the one the kid would come to the book with, so it didn't have to go into the world of parody and undoing and deconstructing, except deconstructing the page of comics itself. He did a bunch of single pages that got buried in various